I have a confession to make. The only experience I've ever had with Rainbow Six was in co-op with Vegas 2. And while that game was fun as hell for me and my friends back in middle school, it wasn't until later that I learned where the origins of Rainbow Six came from. But in a weird way, I grew up with Rainbow Six. See, although I'd never heard of Rainbow Six back then, I had heard of and played the hell out of Ghost Recon. And although the two franchises share almost nothing these days, back in the early 2000s, they were only distinguished by really one thing. Rainbow Six was inside, and Ghost Recon was outside. That's pretty much it. And while there are some other differences, sure, the same tactical, squad-oriented gameplay was there. The one-hit kills and deaths were there, and the same focus on planning and strategy was there. I adored it. So, based on this, I should love Rainbow Six Siege, right? Well, not quite. Now, before I go any further, I need to stress how phenomenal of a game Siege is. I've put almost 200 hours into it, and I plan on putting many, many more. That doesn't mean that every single hour has been one of pure joy, though, especially the first 20. Siege, for better or worse, has an insanely high skill floor, and even after this amount of time I've put into it, I'm still afraid to play ranked because I think that I just suck too much. This was a problem for me because it had been so long since I played a real Ghost Recon or any game like it besides CS that I wasn't used to the one-hit deaths and the little blobs in the distance that turned out to be enemies who could clearly see me. On top of that, you add this really awesome but sometimes cheap-feeling destructible environments, and you have a recipe for a lot of rounds early in your Siege career where you spectate more than you play. This left me feeling empty after my first 2 weeks with the game, and if I was a game journalist who had to sum this whole game up in just those 2 weeks, I would have hated it. But then something happened. Around the 20-hour mark, I started surviving. Not necessarily getting a bunch of kills or being the most useful person possible, but I started being able to predict where my enemies were going to be coming from. And if I did die, I would be able to give useful callouts to my team so they knew who killed me and where from.
Stun grenade out.
15 seconds remaining.
He's in the corner. Nice.
Op 4 eliminated. Friendly mission successful.
Fast forward to almost 200 hours of gameplay later, and Siege is easily the game that I've played the most in the last year. There are days where I absolutely suck, especially if I haven't played it in a few days, but even after all of those days, I still keep coming back for more. And that's because what Siege does what many games set up to do, but fail. It delivers an experience. The experience of Siege is what I think makes it so incredible and engaging as a game, and it's what makes it appeal so much to me as someone who never feels that I play as many games as I wish. The first aspect to the experience of the game is the tactical gameplay. The one-hit kills mean that you have to pay attention to as many of your senses as possible, at least until smell-o-vision comes out. Your vision is pretty limited, even with the FOV turned all the way up, so you have to rely on sounds like footsteps and gunshots to determine the location of enemies, and most of all, you have to communicate. Gatekeeper warning! I really don't recommend that you play Siege without headphones and a mic because speech and communication is one of the most important parts of being successful in this game. If you are able to successfully communicate where your enemies are to your teammates, the likelihood of your team's victory is substantially increased. So please, play with headphones and mics. That leads into the second thing that makes Siege an experience, the immersion factor. This game makes you feel like you are a part of an elite counter-terrorist team that is actually combating an equally powerful threat. The communication from callouts on enemy classes and locations feels like what actual SWAT, GSG-9, or JTF-2 forces would call out, even though you're all just civilians behind a computer screen. It's amazing! The amount of times that I've gotten kills as an attacker just because Dokkaebi used her cell phone hack to let me hear an enemy phone through a wall isn't that many, but when it does happen, it feels like my team is working as a well-oiled machine. What makes this part of the game really work on a dynamic level, on PC at least, as I can attest for the consoles, is the fact that the community is really rather good. Ubisoft has done a great job of banning hackers and griefers, and it really shows. 90% of the games I matchmake into have completely competent players who communicate well and know the maps and don't get furious with you if you make a bad call or die early in the round. It's a blast. That doesn't mean that the game is flawless though, far from it. Although the hacking and cheating problem has been dramatically decreased, every once in a while a bullshit artist slips through. On top of that, every time there's a new update, there are meta abusers who just use the new characters or exploits to bullshit their way to the top rank. Plus, there is a grind. Oh sweet lord, there's a grind. While it isn't too bad for operators, using the renowns to purchase skins and bundles that often cost almost twice as much as the operators that they are for seems like a blatant scam to get you to pay real money. And sure, while you have a chance to roll these things in alpha packs, the packs themselves come at a rate that, at least for me, of about 1 per 20 matches, so good luck with that. Once in a while, sure, there's a cheap death or something that you felt was unfair, but a lot of those deaths can be learning experiences. For example, if you get killed by being shot through a wall by a Pulse, remember that Pulse can see through walls using his gadget, but only up to 5 meters away, so if you stand towards the other edge of the room, or in the middle of the room even, that may be a better tactic of avoiding it next time. And at the end of the day, here's the thing. I paid $15 for the starter pack and not a penny more, and I've gotten almost 200 hours of an experience that you can get in even the gripes. And sure, there are matches every once in a while where I just want to rage quit, or there's times where I do think that the deaths that come to me are bullshit, but it all becomes worth it when you have a round like this.
Sweeping for electronics.
Acquired. Move out. Down to 1 friendly.
He's in front office.
Four remaining.
The other one was, yeah.
Clutcher kick. Just shoot the hot. Oh!
Op 4
Good job.
neutralized. Mission successful.
If you've got the $15 to spend on this game, now more than ever I urge you to give it a shot, because it's an experience that I bet you'll be willing to have over and over again.